Hey guys, Jamie here talking about the foam roller or PVC roller. Technically, we call this self-myofascial release or SMR. Our goal here is to work on taking our foam roller and just basically rolling over all this different tissue throughout the body. We're gonna go through a quick one-over. This is my standard go-to if I'm sore or if I'm getting ready to warm up into a workout. I always go into this foam roller just to kind of get some blood circulation. And at the same time, I'm also stabilizing my body in a planked position that's gonna allow me to engage and turn on some of those stabilizers before I go into my workout. Now, I like to start off at the bottom. So if you don't have a foam roller, you can always go to Home Depot and get a PVC pipe. Works just the same. So I'll use the hard PVC pipe here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna begin at the Achilles, crossing that free leg up and over, elevate the hips, and we wanna think about creating some lateral pattern, lateral movement. Now, I'm not just staying static at my ankle. I wanna think about adding some movement into that joint downstream, and I'm gonna work my way up. As I work laterally, side to side, finding a good tender spot, mashing it out as I move that ankle around. Now, what we'll do is we're gonna take this pretty much all the way up to the back of the knee. We don't need to be rolling on the knee. We wanna think about staying on the soft tissue, the muscle belly down below. Once we hit that gastroc and soleus down there, we're gonna come around and hit our peroneals and anterior tib just to kind of get a little bit more through our ankle flexors, right? Not so much just the plantar flexors, but we wanna think about that dorsal flexion and kind of engaging that as well. Now, this is gonna look a little bit different as I come into a side plank. Now, the big thing here is the pressure. If we're putting too much pressure or if the roller is too hard, we can always bring our top leg down just to act as an added stabilizer, but we wanna do the same thing. Move that ankle joint around so we're not staying in one static spot. We're finding some tender spots, mashing around. If you wanna take it to the next level, we bring more of our body weight into it, and we're still trying to move that ankle around while we work laterally across the muscle tissue. So for the lower half of the legs, those are gonna be the best ones to go with. Next, we're gonna touch up on our quads. So for the quadriceps, what I like to think about is isolating one leg at a time. So for example, instead of laying on it across the body like I always see a lot of people do, let's try to isolate one side and focus on all different aspects of the quads. Remember, there's 4 different muscles. We're not necessarily gonna work on the IT band, but we wanna think about some of the tissue underneath and around the IT band just to kind of get unstuck. So what we'll do is I'm gonna lay down, roller is just on that one leg. And from here, I'm gonna work from my hip down towards my knee. And as I explore, I'll find some tender spots, and then I'm gonna tack it down by keeping pressure on it and then moving and manipulating that joint upstream or downstream. And as we do this, guys, remember, there's really no wrong way to roll out. We're just trying to explore, find those tender spots, and give it some love. We can take this all the way up towards the hip capsule and kind of work into that TFL and some of those other hip flexors up here that come around and intersect with our glutes. Now, once we kind of attack that into that front side of our quads, now we're gonna go into a little bit more of the medial or the adductors for our hip and groin. Best way to do this is I'm gonna lay down with the roller parallel to my body, bring that knee up as high as I can. Now, from here, I'm trying to replicate somewhat of like a deep squatted position. So the higher I can get my knee, the more I'm gonna be able to lengthen out some of the tissue down low. From here, my left side, I'm gonna plank up and I'm rolling in towards the groin, back out towards the knee, while I add some internal rotation to the hip here, just to change the different length and tension, right? We're just trying to explore, find some tender spots, stick on it, hang out there, not too long though. From there, we're gonna get into our glutes and our hips. So this is where we're gonna hit our piriformis, and a lot of times this can be like the one spot that might help release some stress either upstream or downstream from this area. But what we'll do is whichever side I plant, so I'm on my right side, right hand's down, that side is the side that I'm rotating. So I'm bringing that ankle up and over. I can support and hold on to my knee as I work my way down and towards that hip, explore, find some tender spots. If this is feeling good, we can take it to the next level by changing the angle of our elbow and still getting down into that. Same thing here, we want to think about maybe add some extension to the hip, maybe support and pull that knee into the chest so we can get a little bit more flexion at that hip. And we're just trying to explore any stiffness. From there, we're gonna get into our lats. Now the lats is probably one of those areas that people tend to avoid just because of how tender it can be. It's not gonna just be isolated to the lats, it's also gonna be the serratus anterior, which is across the front of the ribs. So what I do is I'll start off right about armpit. I'm using my back leg to bridge up to add some more pressure. My working arm, I'm gonna stay locked out, elbow pit reaching for the ceiling versus just bending at the elbow. So I wanna try to think about globally opening up that whole shoulder. As I rock laterally, forward and back, we can start to drop that arm down a little bit, work our way up. You do not have to lift your hips up. If that's too much pressure, keep your hips down. Just know that you're driving and moving by using this top leg. Rocking it side to side, move around and explore. Now, those are a series of different movement patterns that we can practice using before, after. You can do it before you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning. This is just a good habit that we can continue to work with just to maintain a nice healthy body. Rule of thumb, 1 to 2 minutes, find those tender spots, give it some love and attention, and then move on. Don't just get too caught up, and enjoy.